Good afternoon, everybody. This is Eddie Taylor. We're back here in the United Way Podcast Center for our United Way Life Community Voices. Today, we got a really special guest, somebody I'm really glad is here with us, Gregg Hart. Gregg, I know you've got a lot of history in the community, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But we also have with us, of course, Jacob Martin. He is our technical advisor, and he keeps us on time, too. Good luck, Jacob. I'm here with Gregg. Good luck, Jacob. So we're going to just jump right into this and start with, we've got a couple of areas we wanted to discuss today. And one of them is serving the community while you're in Sacramento. But before we jump into that part of it, Gregg, tell us a little bit about the history of how you got there.
Well, Eddie, thanks for having me. It is really a pleasure to be with you. It's just always fun to be working in the space that you are so effective in, representing the community members who need help in our community. And I'm trying to do that in my own way in the state legislature. I just feel like we're partners in that work.
Amen.
And it is an interesting path that I've taken to get to be in Sacramento. I've lived in Santa Barbara County since I was 2 years old. I moved to Lompoc as a little kid and lived in Lompoc until I was 5. My father was the library director for the city of Lompoc, and that was his first job out of library school. My mom was a teacher, so we had a public service-oriented family. And at the dinner table, the conversations were ironically a lot about local government and how to serve the community. So as I grew up and became a teenager in Santa Barbara, going to local schools and City College and UCSB, I was interested in serving my community because I love where we live here on the Central Coast. It's one of the most beautiful places in the country and in the world, really. And what's special about it is that people care about it. And there have been generations of people who have cared about this community, and they have invested and made things better. And to the point now where, I think just really proud of all the work that all of us do collectively to make change in our communities. And being in local government has afforded me an opportunity to do that. As you mentioned, I got elected to the Santa Barbara City Council and then to the Board of Supervisors, and now serve in the State Assembly in the assembly seat that I actually began my political career as a volunteer for Jack O'Connell, who was in our state legislature 40 years ago. I was a volunteer for Jack's very first assembly campaign when I was a college student at UCSB, and he was an unlikely winner. Nobody really thought this 30-year-old kid from Oxnard High School would get elected to the state legislature, but he did, and he hired me on his staff when I graduated from UCSB, and I worked for him for about 6 years and kind of began to understand what the state legislature does and how it works with local governments and community organizations, to represent us in Sacramento. And that's my job now. I go up to Sacramento on Monday mornings when the legislature's in session, and then come back on Thursday afternoons and then do my work here in the community. And it is a nonstop life that is 100% consuming.
Do you love it?
And I do love it. And I love all the things that I've been doing through my life. But at this point, I feel like, being involved in the state legislature with the things that I've learned and the connections that I've made in the community, it's the right place to
Ain't
be.
it great to find that? I mean, I look at what I get to do at United Way, and I say, I get to do this. And I believe everybody here believes that this is what we get to do. So when in your position, you get to do this. You get to represent us. And let's talk about a little bit of specifics. As an assembly member, you're currently working on the Central Coast Caucus and some environmental work, including the whale bill, the climate bond, and the oil bill. All very interesting, maybe some of it controversial, but let's talk a little bit about first the Central Coast Caucus.
It's a great new tool that we use to help magnify the presence of our communities along the Central Coast to our colleagues in the state legislature. There are 80 members of the Assembly. There's another 40 in the state Senate. And the issues and the interest of the Central Coast are different than Los Angeles and San Francisco and the major metropolitan areas. We have agriculture, we have tourism, we have manufacturing, we have high tech. We kind of have it all, but lots of people just forget about us here on the coast. And having this caucus that is comprised of all of the legislators in the Assembly and the Senate, between Ventura County all the way up to, Monterey, San Luis Obispo County, and Santa Cruz County, gives us an opportunity to kind of draw attention to the issues that are unique and special. And I think it helps leverage our impact in the legislature. My colleague Don Addis, who represents the San Luis Obispo area going north, is the chair of the caucus this year, and Monique Limon is the vice chair. So we've got, my immediate colleagues in the leadership roles in the caucus. And one of the best things is that the Speaker of the State Assembly, Robert Rivas, is also a member of the Central Coast Caucus. So I think we are punching above our weight, in terms of our influence and the expertise and the experience that legislators bring to this conversation. And I think it's going to be a great thing for our community.
Yeah, I know it's not listed here, but there's something else that you and Monique are especially interested in, and that's the nonprofit sector.
Yes.
There's a nonprofit group that was started, I believe what I believe I know, and correct me please if I'm wrong, but when Monique started a nonprofit group, a focus group, when she was in your seat.
Yes.
And then has replicated that in the Senate. And tell us a little bit about, because I got to tell you, from my chair, I really appreciate you, man.
Well, that is really kind of you to say. And Monique is just an amazing partner in the legislature. I've been so fortunate, to be working with her. We were friends before I got elected to the state legislature, and, we spent a lot of time working on important issues. And what's really fun is that, as you described, Monique was the chair of the Assembly Select Committee on the Nonprofit Sector.
That's
and
the
then
one.
when she
Yes.
moved
Okay.
to the state Senate, she continued in that role on the Senate side. And now I have been appointed as the chair from the Assembly side. So Santa Barbara County is really well represented when it comes to the influence about nonprofit policy in Sacramento. And then the head of the California Nonprofits Organization that brings together all the nonprofits in the state of California is Jeff Green, who also lives in Santa Barbara County and was formerly with the Santa Barbara Community College Foundation. So, it is really an amazing confluence of leadership roles in the state of California that are represented here in our county. And I think it's going to make a big difference in bringing that voice to the state legislature as well.
And Jeff is someone who's going to come up later in our discussion. He and I talk a lot about the uncharitable movement, which, I'm involved with. But interestingly, and maybe you can help me with this, I've yet to meet Monique Limon.
Really?
Have yet to meet her. And I think it would be a wonderful podcast.
I couldn't agree more. I think Monique is she is an amazing leader. She is really an important person in the California State Senate, and has just done a fabulous job in Sacramento.
I know she's busy.
Well, there's
hopefully
not enough hours in the day for all of us, so we do the best we can.
Let's bring it back to the environmental work, because that's the other stuff that's under that first topic. Is so the whale bill and the climate bill. Are they are they synergistic in any way, whale bill and climate?
Well, the whale bill is very focused on just an amazing program that was started in Ventura and Santa Barbara County to encourage the companies that are shipping and operating large container ships off the coast of California running through our channel to slow down, because the incidence of whale strikes has been increasing as that traffic in our channel and up and down the coast has increased. And the simplest way to avoid the whale strikes is to have the ships slow down. And when they do that, they reduce the air pollution that comes from those ships, which is significant. It is. At this point in time, we've done such a great job on land and with vehicles in reducing emissions that the only big emitters left in our county are these ships that are running off the coast, emitting huge diesel particulate air pollution. So by having them reduce their speed voluntarily, and that's the beauty of this program, is it's not a coercive mandate. It's really a voluntary program that the shipping companies participate in. And by doing that, they get recognition from the Air District for being good corporate citizens, doing the right thing. And it turns out to be an amazingly persuasive thing that I didn't think would be successful, but it turns out to be wildly successful.
That's
about
great.
Half of the whale strikes that historically had been happening have been eliminated by this simple act of slowing down the ships. And by expanding that local program statewide, we can have just that much more impact. And I think it will even encourage more participation than has happened, because it won't just be the Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo and Ventura County air districts recognizing these companies. It'll be the state of California and the governor of the state of California giving these companies recognition for them doing the right environmental thing and protecting our air quality and reducing the incidence of whale strikes and reducing reducing the disturbance that happens to whales from the acoustic impact of the ships operating the channel. So I think it's one of the best examples of how government should operate, when we can encourage the private sector to do the right thing for the right reasons without having a heavy-handed regulatory approach.
Sounds like, really, when you describe it that way, Greg, it sounds like a no-brainer.
I hope so.
It seems like the co-sponsors would just be lining up, and there shouldn't be any issues.
Last year, the same bill foundered in the Senate Appropriations Committee, which is the next hurdle that we're coming up to when I go back in August. But I'm really hopeful and have been working the bill really hard and have a great coalition of supporters. So I think if we can get the bill to the governor's desk, that he's very likely to sign it. And so I'm hopeful this year.
Well, hopefully this podcast gets out in time, that people can listen and be aware, and at least contact the office and figure out how they can help.
Absolutely.
So
love to have that.
let's cover just the climate bill and the oil bill before we have to wrap up this session, because I know how time is for you guys.
Okay. The climate bond is a very significant measure that's going to be on the ballot this November. Every California voter is going to have a chance to vote in favor of this bond. This is a $10 billion investment that takes care of water infrastructure, wildfire prevention, clean energy. It is a comprehensive package of investments in environmental issues to help protect our future from climate change, and it's been working its way through the legislative process over probably about the last 5 years, and has now finally gotten the vote successfully to get on the ballot, and voters will have a chance to make that decision. I think it's a really good investment. There are so many pressing infrastructure needs that we have in California that we need additional funding to invest in, and our state budget, is constrained, and this kind of investment, this $10 billion infusion of money over, the next decade or so, is really critical to maintaining the progress that we've been making on advancing climate issues, and also investing in just basic infrastructure like reclaimed water, new facilities that protect communities from wildfire proliferation, and just things that we need to invest in to make sure that California is ready for the next 10, 15 years of seriously changing climate impacts.
Thank you for doing that. We're going to wrap up this session. We had Gregg Hart here, Assembly member, representing Santa Barbara County. And of course, we have Jacob Martin sitting by my side, as always, letting me know that our time is up. Greg, thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. It's been a pleasure.